Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I'd like to thank Rob Smith, that's Rob Smith Jr. on the Twitter, and others for kind words about my conservative bite, militia. In part 3 of my series, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing, I examine what happens to a great city when Islam comes to town and when the population of its followers reaches a level where they can begin to take control through sociological and even legal means. This series was sparked by my reception of an email from Governor Peter Shumlin of Vermont declaring that he is welcoming quote-unquote refugees with open arms. Vermonters know the city of Burlington. And if you don't live in Vermont, just imagine your own city. It has one place where you can stand and look around and say, "This is my city." For many who live in Burlington, that would be the Church Street Marketplace. You can look north along Church Street and see the shops to either side, and the wide open marketplace area in between where we set up our annual Christmas tree. On the north end of Church Street is the symbolic church that inspires the name for the whole marketplace. Young people enjoy continuing the tradition of peaceful demonstration against such things as gender normative, climate inequality dog whistles, and other important issues of the day. Now I want Vermonters to imagine that scene in the year 2045. There aren't very many women walking along in the marketplace who are dressed in the most modern fashions, unless you call the most modern fashion a burqa or a niqab. And that church that inspired the street's name, well, it's a mosque now, and it's blasting out the call to prayer 5 times a day, every day, very loudly. And there are places in Burlington where if you're not a Muslim, it's not really safe to go. Peaceful protest is met with violence, and the government supports the violent aggressors while arresting the peaceful protesters. Now I'm sure that if progressives are listening to this, they're saying, "Well, you're just fear-mongering. That stuff can't happen here." This series is a 5-part lesson in that it can happen here. And if something isn't done, it will happen here. And if you're listening to this and you're from another state in the United States of America, you're going to get the same treatment. I wish this weren't the case, but it's already happening all over the civilized world. In Marseille, in France, in Sydney, in Australia, in Stockholm, in Sweden, in Ottawa, in Canada, and, as you'll hear in a moment from Geoff Mitchell of the English Defence League, in London, in the United Kingdom.
I want to thank Kel and Tim for allowing me to hijack their show for this special episode of what happens over time when you have a small population of Mohammedans who grow into a large population of Mohammedans. And I want to just say real quickly, before we go to Geoff Mitchell of the English Defence League, one way that this happens, for instance, when you have refugees that you allow into your state or wherever, they eventually bring their families in. And their numbers increase because Muslims don't care anything about normal marriage laws. So a devout Muslim man will have several women in his house, one of which officially is his wife and the others of which are his cousins or something of that nature officially. But they are actually his wives, and he does have children with them. And this is often ignored by the law, but it is also a way where just a few Muslims can increase to many Muslims over a period of a few generations. Now, I want to talk here to Geoff Mitchell of the English Defence League. He is an individual who has spent a great deal of time in the pro-civil rights anti-jihad movement. And Geoff, first of all, thank you for joining us. And also, I want to get from you a very small thumbnail, if you will, of where you grew up in the UK. I know you're in the Ipswich area now, but just give me a little thumbnail of where you grew up, where you spent most of your formative years.
Well, I'll thank you, Dave, and to Kel and to Tim. I've got to thank you, Dave, for the opportunity to speak a little bit of how has been for myself. I grew up in South London. I lived there till 42 years when we decided to move on to a different side of the country, which we did, and moved to Peterborough, which didn't go down too well. Then we moved to Ipswich, which I've been living at Ipswich now, Dave, for 17 and a half years now, and where I am now, I'm on the outskirts of Ipswich, and I love it. I love it where I am. Sadly, my old town, London, is not the London that I remember as a child, Dave.
Well, now, Geoff, that's what I want to get into with you, because London is your old home grounds, and it is an iconic city in the world. Everyone has visions of London, the Tower, the Parliament Building, the Palace, the Bridge, all of that, Big Ben. But so many areas of London now have become no-go zones, Islamic enclaves, and places of this sort. And one of them, a lot of Americans are familiar with the Whitechapel murders, the Jack the Ripper murders. There used to be a tour in the Whitechapel district in the Walthamstow neighborhood, where tourists could go and see all the sites where the murders took place and that sort of thing. But, Geoff, can you tell us what that area has now turned into?
Well, even the names of the roads and that have been changed to some foreign names. I mean, I haven't been into the heart of what it used to be, but there's so many names that's been changed. Some old English names that have been changed to foreign-looking names. Everything around there, most who live in London, inner London, will say that it's changed beyond belief. It feels, I'll be quite honest with you, Dave, it feels like a foreign land. It almost feels, if you go through there, you almost feel like you need to show your passport. And it's just a sad reflection of where we are today. Now, I've often spoken, you've heard me, Dave, of the way that it was, myself as a young man growing up. I remember, Tower Hamlets. It used to be the place where people thought, oh, my goodness me, I wish I could afford to live there. And if you could see what's happened to it, it breaks your heart, Dave, that now beautiful London, our London of old, is not the London of old. We remember it. It feels alien. I think that's the only way I can really put it. It is alien. And I had a friend, going back a little while ago now, that he wouldn't walk his son to college, and we had him on the show to actually tell us on the East Anglians radio show at one time that he couldn't walk because otherwise if his son walked by where these Muslims were, and they was Muslims, I don't care what people say, these were Muslims. These weren't Asians, ladies and gentlemen. These were Muslims. That his son would be accosted and would be beaten up because the word white, you're white, you don't fit here. This is what's happened in our country, in different parts of London, Dave, Walthamstow, East London. It's become a bit like you've got to be very watchful for your kids if they're going to college or anything like that. It's become that sort of an area, which is really sad reflection of how I do remember it. But I reflect on it, and it does make you feel really sad to where we have come in. It seems like a short while, but it's over years, and I do blame it onto politicians allowing this situation where we are today, getting out of hand.
Geoff, I want you to talk because you and Tim make up the complete package here because of what I'm trying to convey to people, of how the increasing population of Muslims changes things. Now, people in my state and people all over the United States understand the value and the right to protest, to demonstrate if you don't like something in a peaceful manner, to demonstrate. And the English Defense League was first formed to address issues of things that have been happening due to the increased population of Muslims in the United Kingdom. And there was a demonstration, a peaceful demonstration, in the Tower Hamlets area of London. This, for American listeners, is an area where there's a lot of public housing. That area is called Tower Hamlets. And you related one time on English Defense League radio of an incident of people marching in the street, and yet some of the residents of Tower Hamlets, which have become mostly Mohammedans, throwing things down from a great height from this public housing onto the heads of people, and there were even some of their own children there. Am I correct?
You are correct. There was some quite severe injuries to our patriots that was there, male, female, that everybody come under attack. It did seem, and I still say it to this day, that it was almost like a gauntlet, that the route that we were supposed to be using, they totally blocked it off, and we had to go down one of the roads, or not myself, but the members had to go down a road that either side was just for these Muslims. And, of course, the things was raining down from either side. It was a gauntlet, and there were some very severe injuries. There's lots of footage on YouTube that reflected how bad the damage was. But I think at the end of it, we thought that we had a very successful day. We didn't quite realise the extent of what had actually happened, that it was one of our coaches that had broke down that the police was trying to guide out. Actually, as you say, there was objects being thrown. I mean, big objects, Dave. They nearly totaled the coach. The coach was wrecked, basically. And a lot of our lads and lasses on there, one of our lasses, which we reflected on many times, actually got pulled out the back of the coach and really severely beaten by, and just a big point a finger out to the UF little scumbags out there. It was one of them, Dave, that ran up and kicked her straight in the face. And then there was about 20 other Muslims that was trying to join in. But if it wasn't for the grace of God and the police turned up at that moment in time, that young lady could have been probably beaten to death. That's how bad it was that day. And we didn't realise until the extent of it, until a little bit later on, when we was seeing who was on the way home and that, and then we heard the news that come through. I know we was talking to Kel, and I said, oh my goodness me, just got news through that one of our coaches was ambushed and they took some casualties. And we was quite shocked by it, because these are all like family to us, and that's the way it was. But it was disgraceful because it was the police led one of our coaches down an area which was predominantly Muslim, and this is what happened, Dave. It's that reflection when you're trying to peacefully protest, peacefully go out there and speak out, because that's something that the English Defence League has always done. We wanted to speak out about what's going on in this country, and we've had all sorts of problems. The violence, when they say violence, it's always come our way. It's not that the English Defence League are called. It's us that's took the violence. We've had ladies with broken jaws, being hit outside the courts, minding their own business, standing there protesting about some paedophiles that was inside, that had their jaws broke by these Muslims, run up, smacked them. These things goes on and on, but sadly, the media doesn't pick up on these things, Dave, and it never has done. There's a two-tier system, and there has been for a long time, but it seems there is a stirring within the political elites that know that there's a lot of unrest in this country, that people are really fed up with the way things are, and it needs to be some sort of change. And I think it's slowly but surely, I think it's picking up momentum. I think it's got a long way to go, but there's just a few things that I come across over the few years that I've been involved with in the EDL organisation, Dave.
All right. Well, Geoff, thank you very much. And this does tie into what Tim was saying about being a Mohammedan, being a mitigating circumstance. And I want to thank you for joining us, because you are not a politician or something of that nature. You're just a good, ordinary, working-class man who cares about the rights of everyone in the United Kingdom, as does Tim, who is working to ensure civil rights for everyone. And I want to thank you for being with us.
Pleasure, Dave. But thank you for the opportunity to speak about some of the issues that we've often addressed, but such an important show tonight, and I'm glad that I could be here and join yourself, and of course Cal, the RFB, a great show, and Tim, and everybody else. Once again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. God bless you, Dave, and everybody else. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Geoff.
In part 4 of Wolves in Sheep's Clothing, I speak to Michelle Walsh of Canada, and we discuss the real war on women that occurs when enough Muslims begin to push their culture into a free society. That's it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2015, Anno Domini.